What happens when you're on top of the world, gifted with extraordinary power, and with everyone you meet cowering at your feet? Then the horror of war is thrown in your face, the dead you lay in your wake, and the lives you've left in ruin. That shame and regret eating at your very soul until you see even the gift of power you were given as a horrid curse. This is the life of Jeong Jeong the Deserter, one of the most powerful firebenders in Avatar history, one of the Fire Nation's most wanted men. This man is a haunted soul, a grand member of the White Lotus, and a fountain of wisdom and knowledge. Today, I hope to show you what this man went through and the tragedy of his actions. In Season 1, Episode 16 of Avatar The Last Airbender, dubbed The Deserter, we meet an old firebending master named Jeong Jeong the Deserter. According to wanted posters seen at the beginning of the episode, he is one of the most wanted men in the Fire Nation. He's the only one to defect from the military and live, already showing his legendary status. Throughout the episode, we see that Jeong Jeong is a haunted man, a great weight laying on his shoulders. He preaches philosophy about both life and firebending itself, and both are clear giveaways to what occurred earlier in his life. According to the official Avatar wiki, Jeong Jeong was a high-ranking admiral in the Fire Nation. In his teenage years, he was already considered a master of his craft, and only improved as he fought in the 100-Year War. Now at the ripe age of 61, he has easily become the most powerful firebender in the world, even more so than Fire Lord Ozai. Don't believe me? Watch this feat. This firewall technique is unique to Jeong Jeong himself, and in no time at all he creates a massive wall of flame, easily 3 stories tall. This is the strongest non-comet boosted firebending we ever see during the modern day, and when he is comet boosted, his walls can reach the height of skyscrapers and push heavy tanks with ease. Speaking of the comet, he is one of only 2 firebenders who we see achieve consistent flight. One is Ozai, who seems to always be pushed in a certain direction, while Jeong Jeong appears to be able to stabilize and remain in place. This shows his mastery and control over his bending, a far cry from Ozai's less focused and brutal style. And Ozai isn't the only one we can compare him to. Let's compare him to a firebender we all know and love, Uncle Iroh. In both cases, they emphasize the breath as a source of firebending power.
No, power in firebending comes from the breath, not the muscles.
Power in firebending comes from the breath.
It's not about rage, but they see what it can be as very different. Jeong Jeong hates himself and sees firebending as pure destruction, while Iroh learned from the Sun Warriors that it can be life and energy. Where one still teaches it, the other seems to reject it entirely. Notably, they both practice teaching slowly as opposed to rushing things. Control and discipline are key to their teaching styles. In order to figure out Jeong Jeong's past, we need to look into his current philosophy and teachings. One of the first things we hear him say is him yelling at Aang after he mentions his destiny to master the elements. He says, quote,
What would a boy know of destiny? If a fish lives its whole life in this river, does he know the river's destiny? No! Only that it runs on and on, out of his control. He may follow where it flows, but he cannot see the end. He cannot imagine the ocean.
While some interpret this to be about Aang and his Avatar journey, I take this personally as Jeong Jeong talking about himself. He was just a boy and thought he knew his destiny, but even now he questions what that destiny might be. As a young admiral, he likely believed in the grandeur of the Fire Nation and the war. It's likely he believed his destiny was to win the war and rise through every rank he could. But that all changed one day. We don't know the exact reason for his desertion, so we can turn to another White Lotus member for answers, General Iroh again. He was a master strategist and general in the Fire Nation as Crown Prince. He leveled the walls of Ba Sing Se, but encountered tragedy while inside. His son, Lu Tin, perished during the conflict. This loss broke Iroh and made him disillusioned with war and fighting. After this, Iroh began his trip of spiritualism and became the great master we know today. Now, we move on to Jeong Jeong. What happened to him? I don't believe he had a kid like Iroh, but rather saw something he shouldn't have. Maybe like Iroh, it was a child. Maybe children. Civilians, caught in the ever-expanding flames of war. Unnecessary suffering at his hands, at the Fire Nation's hands. This may be why he sees firebending as a curse, as it's the very tool he used to commit such atrocities. In a way, it goes along with another line from him.
But fire is alive. It breathes, it grows. Without the bender, a rock will not throw itself. But fire will spread and destroy everything in its path if one does not have the will to control it.
This is what he and the Fire Nation did. Spread and destroy without mercy, and he regrets every bit of that. Another big piece of Jeong Jeong's character is his need for control, to hold oneself back and to only fight when it's necessary. We see this when he firebends, because he never, not once, throws an offensive attack, only defensive ones. Even during the comet, his firewall is used to push, not destroy, the tanks. Jeong Jeong is so in control of his bending that he never needs to outright attack. Unlike his previous student, Zhao, who openly throws fire at every opportunity, even to the point of destroying his own ships. Iroh is the only other firebender with this much restraint, as he only directly firebends a few times in the series, and usually against those who seriously threaten him. A weird side of Jeong Jeong is his ability to tell a person's skill just by how they walk and carry themselves. When Aang arrives at his camp, he immediately recognizes Aang's lack of skill in water and earthbending.
Why won't he see me?
He says you're not ready. Says you haven't mastered waterbending and earthbending yet.
Wait, how does he know that?
He saw the way you walked into camp. He can tell.
Later, when talking to Zhao, he says that he's never seen such raw power before as he saw in Aang. As an admiral and a teacher, this statement holds a lot of weight, and it explains why he was so harsh on Aang about discipline and control. He didn't want Aang to do what he did all those years ago. Sadly, Aang didn't heed that advice in time, and it deeply affected him in a similar way for the rest of the series. Jeong Jeong carries a lot of regret and shame for what he did, to the point he calls firebending nothing but a curse. He wishes to get rid of his bending if possible, seeing it as a dirty reminder of the man he once was. Being a member of the White Lotus, however, it seems he may have developed envy for the other bending arts. As he says, water is cool and healing, earth is sturdy and solid. He even comments on Katara's healing abilities as if he wished to have them himself.
You have healing abilities. The great benders of the water tribe sometimes have this ability. I've always wished I were blessed like you, free from this burning curse.
Jeong Jeong may be one of the most tragic characters in Avatar: The Last Airbender. His past is shrouded in mystery, and yet it clearly weighs on his mind. While he may be a tragic man, that experience has taught him some powerful philosophy, words that we can all learn from and adapt into our own lives. While we may never know his true history, I'd like to think we've done well to crack his armor and reveal the man behind the legend. Thank you so much for watching. This was actually the first idea I had for cartoon case studies, so it was fun to make it a reality. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe. It really helps my channel grow. That's it for today, so I consider this case closed.